Hi, I'm Jackie Stapleton and welcome to ATOL TV. Today I'm here to help you with understanding the requirements of ISO 9001. If you like this video and want to see more great content, then click the subscribe button and the bell icon. It costs nothing to subscribe and you can unsubscribe at any time. In this video, I'm going to cover Clause 6.2, Quality Objectives and Planning to Achieve Them. I'm going to break this clause down and turn it into something you can all understand. You'll then be able to apply this to your own organisation system and understand what the requirements will look like for you. No more guessing. So keep on watching as I can show you just how easy this is. Okay, let's get started. Now let's take a look at what clause 6.2 wants us to do. There are a couple of subclauses in 6.2, so I'll break each of them down separately for you. Now subclause 6.2.1 is all about the establishment of the quality objectives. And by the way, you can call them anything you want. Objectives, goals, targets, KPIs. This is completely up to you. So for consistency, I'll refer to objectives throughout this video. This subclause states that the organisation shall establish quality objectives at relevant functions, levels and processes needed for the quality management system. When I read this, I see that these objectives aren't just high-level corporate objectives or just operational objectives. These objectives are to be established at all functions, levels, and right down to processes for the quality management system. So you might start with the corporate quality objectives and then they should filter down to each department or function in the business and even where they apply to processes of the business. So as an example, if one of the company quality objectives is to dispatch customer orders within 3 business days from the date of the order, there would be several departments or functions that would also require objectives set to be able to meet this objective. Customer service would have an objective to provide the order details to the warehouse within 4 hours of taking the order. I've just made that up just to fit the time in. Then the warehouse team would have an objective of picking and packing the order within, say, 1 business day of the receipt of the order. So the clock is ticking now at 1.5 days. The dispatch team then would have an objective set to schedule pickup no longer than 1 business day after the receipt of the package. This takes us to 2.5 days, allowing half a day further just in case. There could even be objectives documented in the processes they follow so that it's clear at every step of every process what the timeframes are to meet these higher level objectives. Now, moving along in clause 6.2.1, it does state that the quality objectives shall be consistent with the quality policy. Well, look at that. When we set our quality objectives, they need to somehow align with our intent and commitment that we documented in our quality policy. I would hope so. What a great way to ensure that our intent from our policy is met. Be sure to check out our video for clause 5.2 quality policy if you need a refresher. Then point B states that the quality objectives are to be measurable. Another stroke of genius. Of course, when objectives are set, you need to be able to measure them. It's no good setting an objective and you're not able to monitor it. Make sure you collect the data and can generate the reports needed to track how well you are going in achieving your objectives. Otherwise, you don't have a clue where you're at. And then also to make your objectives measurable, it's important to have a time frame. A time frame that you want to achieve your objective by, just like in the example I used earlier. Another could be that you want to reduce warranty claims to 5% of purchases by December 31st, and insert the year. Then you know what you want to achieve and by when. I'm sure you've all heard of SMART goals, right? This helps you to set specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and timely goals. Then we can move on to point C, which states to take into account applicable requirements. It's rather vague, don't you think? What are these applicable requirements? Well, we will determine these applicable requirements as other clauses are actioned throughout the standard. For instance, when you understand the needs and expectations of interested parties as per clause 4.2, you will identify some applicable requirements based on what your interested parties expect from you. If this is the case, wouldn't it be beneficial to set an objective to ensure that this is met, and met to a standard and time frame that's expected? For example, an interested party are your customers, and they expect that their order is dispatched no later than 3 days after they place the order. So as per my previous example, set an objective to ensure that this is monitored and has a plan to achieve this time frame. Another area that you will identify applicable requirements will be from clause 8.1, operational planning and control, where it's stated that the organisation is to determine the requirements for the products and services. So again, and you will be the best person to know this of your own business, what requirements do you need to meet for your specific products and services? As an example, here at Auditor Training Online, we have to meet compliance requirements for our training, that the assessments meet exemplar global criteria, of which we are audited against. So an objective for us is 100% compliance to exemplar global performance criteria for each annual audit. Right. Then we move to point D, where it states to be relevant to conformity of products and services and to enhancement of customer satisfaction. This is really what our objectives are all about. What does the business want to achieve in regards to delivering your product or service? Just again, like in my earlier example, 3 days to dispatch an order. Will this result in customer satisfaction? What is it that your customers expect from you or your service? What objectives can you set to ensure you do meet customer satisfaction, or even better still, exceed their expectations? Then of course, once you've set and established your objectives, point E states that they are to be monitored. This is handy, of course. If you're going to set objectives, you need to monitor them to see the extent to which you're meeting them. Are you on track? If not, what can you do differently so that you can make changes in enough time to meet your objective by the set time frame? Then point F states that the objectives are to be communicated. That's it, just communicated. So this clause doesn't provide any other hints as to who to or how often, which does align with clause 7.4 communication though, where it's up to the organisation to determine what, when, with whom, who, and how to communicate. So if we apply the knowledge from clause 7.4, it is up to the organisation to determine the communication requirements of the quality objectives. Although clause 7.3 awareness does include the statement that the organisation shall ensure that persons doing work under the organisation's control are aware of relevant quality objectives. So that's a big hint for you right there. If persons doing work under the organisation's control are to be aware of relevant quality objectives, there's our answer right there as to what is to be communicated as part of clause 6.2 quality objectives. It's also a requirement in G that the objectives are to be updated as appropriate, meaning as or when the objectives do need to be updated as a result of change in the business, then do it. Objectives may not always stay the same. As the business changes, products change, customers' requirements change, then this will influence the objectives that have been set too. The final requirement in the section of 621 is that the organisation shall maintain documented information on the quality objectives. Okay, now that we understand what is needed, now we know that these quality objectives actually have to be documented. If you are implementing a system, then you need to ensure that your measurable, SMART objectives are documented. Okay, that's a great start. We now have a documented quality objective set. Now it's time to figure out how these objectives can be achieved. This is where subclause 622 comes into play. This subclause states that when planning how to achieve its quality objectives, the organisation shall determine A, what will be done, B, what resources will be required, C, who will be responsible, D, when it will be completed, and finally E, how the results will be evaluated. I love this. This means that the quality objectives that we set and document aren't to sit on the shelf and get dusty, or they're not to be pinned to the wall so everyone can walk past and just get a warm fuzzy feeling. Not at all. You actually have to figure out what actions you are going to take to achieve the objectives, who is going to be responsible for these actions, and whether you need any other resources such as people, knowledge, skills, equipment, training, and so on. And we've already talked about setting a time frame for these objectives as part of being measurable, which aligns nicely with the requirement for determining when the objectives will be completed by. Now, you just have to figure out how you will evaluate the results of the objectives to see how you are tracking with the objectives set within the time frame set. So what does all of this normally look like? Normally what I see with the audit clients I visit is a table or matrix of some description. The objective is documented, including what is to be achieved and by when. This could be in a single column or over a couple of columns with the time frame separated. Then there are additional columns that reference the strategy of what will be done. Now, this could be as simple as documenting a procedure or procedures. Other columns then might list who's responsible and then the monitoring or measurement that will be conducted, which may reference different reports or statistics. Develop what works for you. Keep it simple, real, and relevant to the scope of your system and how you normally document within the business. Now that I've explained all of these requirements, can you see more clearly how you could action and demonstrate these requirements in your management system? Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Auditor Training Online is a recognised training provider, and we know how it works in the real world, so we're confident that we can help you to make a change in your life and join the most sought after profession out there. Go to our website and enrol in our training to transform your work and industry experience into a recognised qualification and career. And also, don't forget to subscribe to ATOL TV and leave a comment or question, as I truly do want to help you to join the best career out there with me.